Hey guys, Brian here. So today we're going to go over transducer placement. Get a lot of questions on where to mount the transducer on the back, especially for your side and down imaging is what we're specifically going to cover today. Do a few installs every year, and along with the guiding, take people out and they want to know how to set up their units the best they can, and a lot of it starts out with where the transducer is set. So I'm going to take you back here. I've got a Triton, so every boat's going to be a little different depending on what boats you have, but pretty much the placement of where they're at and the reasoning of where to put them will pretty much be basic on any of the boats. So let's crawl underneath here and we'll show you what we got going on. Alright, we're down here underneath the boat in the transom area, obviously where your transducer is going to be put. So let's look down here to what we got. I'm running a Hummingbird unit this year, so this is the transducer to the Hummingbird. Now if you're running a Lowrance with LLS2, your transducer is going to look more, in this configuration. And obviously you can see there's a little bit physical difference here, so sometimes where you put your transducer will definitely make a difference too on, the physicality of. Now I had this, and I had it mounted in the exact same spot. I had it mounted more like, it was mounted in the same general area, but it stuck out more like that. The one thing you got to be careful of when you put this transducer dead center under the trolling motor or the motor like that is when you trim down the motor that it doesn't come down and hit the unit. The best place for these is dead center. The reason for that is if you have, I'm going to use this one I've got, if you've got it set over here, and you've got the motor trimmed fully down and it starts blocking your view off one side or the other, and you're not going to use you're not running these at full speed where you're trimmed up and it's out of the way. You're normally running these when you're only going 3 to 5 miles an hour, so you're on idle, and so you're going to have this thing's going to be sitting in the water. And that is also another reason why I set mine up higher like this. Now, the Hummingbird transducer versus the Lowrance. Lowrance doesn't do your normal 2D sonar off this. This is their structure scan only. They've got 3D now, but this is just side and down imaging is all their transducer is. The Hummingbird transducer does down and side imaging along with your 2D sonar. So if you had this mounted down farther on the running pad, you could use it as your 2D sonar. Most guys will put a Y cable in, put a transducer in the hull like they do most all the fiberglass boats for your 2D sonar, and then they will go and put this unit up here. I tend to get it right behind the motor and up out of the way where I know if I float backwards down a river or got current and I'm floating backwards with it, the motor's going to hit before something's going to hit the unit. You don't want to break these. They're not cheap. They're usually a couple $100 a piece. So that's the reason why I've got mine back here in dead center behind the motor. Now, different applications, different boats have different steps. Triton's got their bilge area there. Your live well intake's here. Another little lip here for the back. That's why I've got mine mounted up here. Some of the Rangers with the setbacks that they've already got molded in. A lot of times with these Lowrance ones, you can screw it. What we've done is screwed it right to the bottom of that setback and had it dead center underneath the behind the engine, dead center in the middle of the boat. So center of the boat is the biggest key, just for the simple fact if you've got it off to one side or the other and that motor's down, you're going to block the vision. If the motor's down and the side of the motor's blocking here, you're not going to see your side imaging out this side of the motor or out this side of the transducer. So that is the key area on why you want it dead center and in the middle of the boat like that. Height wise, again, I just put mine up so when I come off pad or something, especially with a bass boat, I'm not going to break it off. Again, these aren't cheap. You're using it when you're going slow anyhow. If you want to you had it on an aluminum boat, is when they normally do it, but we have put these where they're down, if this is your running surface, mount it so it's just like your 2D sonar And you can run these up to about 40 miles an hour and actually, and see them. Obviously not as well as when your normal optimum is 3 to 6 miles an hour. But on an aluminum boat, yeah, you can put this down where you'd normally have it as a skimmer transducer. When you're using it on a bass boat, get it up out of the way where it's not going to get hit, not going to get broke. You're using it at a slower speed. The whole boat's sitting in the water. And that's the reason they do the 2D sonars, down in the splash wells, and they mount them inside on the running surface, because that's what's touching the water. Once I get this boat up on pad, all of this is out of the water, and you're creating air underneath your transducer, and you're not going to get any reading from it anyway. So, and then that's why then they'll go to a on the Hummingbirds, they'll have a Y cable. You put your other transducer down in the hull like you normally would, and then Y them together, and you've got both readings at the unit. And then as far as running the cable up, I run mine up through the jack plate here. I've had them run before out to the side and brought it up through here and gone up. And then into the back, and I'll show you that here in a minute. There's two ways you can bring this cable up. Again, you can bring it up through the jack plate like such, or bring it up along the side and zip tie it. You can go in two different ways. I drilled the hole here and put a cover on it and brought it in this side. A lot of guys, their gas line and all that will come out the side here also to feed the engine, and you can go through there quite a bit of the time. I didn't have this hole in here at the time, and so when I did this, I thought, well, I'm just going to go through here. When I put my power pole on, this was already ripped, and it was a perfect spot to go in without drilling a couple more holes along here. But that's how I wind up getting them in the back of the boat, is either you're going to have to drill a hole and put some sort of a cover on it, or if you can, use where the your wires and cables come out for the engine, and you can go in through there, or if you want to do, you can poke a hole in and bring it through and not have to drill another hole in the boat. But that is kind of the lowdown on where to put. So that's the lowdown on where to put your transducers on the back of the boat, so you're not getting them broke off, and also so you get your best readings out of them. Again, they're expensive. Get them up out of the way where they're not going to get broke, but get them in the right spot so that when that motor's trimmed down, it's not going to block the view of the motor or the view of the transducer. That happens. A lot of guys are like, well, when I'm idling around, I can't see one side or the other, depending on what side of the, if they offset the transducer on the boat. That's a problem they're running into. And that's the first thing when they, bring the boat to me, or I show them on the back of the boat where to put it. That's the first thing they say, well, I've got it off to the side. Well, that's what's happening. You got that transducer here, that motor comes down, and it's blocking the view of that. So try to get it in the center as best you can. Every boat's different, but if you look at them all, you pretty much can get a good idea as to where you can put it and have a good clean view and see more fish down there.